Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing something very important. Every car owner should do this once in a while. The car we're going to be looking at right now is this 2011 Smart Fortwo. So we're going to be checking the oil. In particular for this vehicle, it's a very important process. It's a small 3-cylinder engine. They use synthetic oil and they run at a fairly high RPM. So I'm going to come over to the car, we're going to do the whole process and check it before we move on to change it later on. Alright, so in this car, the engine is in the back here of this little carpet just for a little protection. We're going to get rid of it right now. We're going to lift this right here. This is the actual engine cover. There's a clip on the side here. We could put it into this little Alright. You can also use bungee cords if you want. You could attach a little strip here and just have it over the seats, but that's no big deal. We just want it to be convenient. So we're going to open this up. The actual engine cover, everything looks fine and clean. No kind of oil residue. Alright, we're going to put it on the side and put this back. As you can tell, this car uses Mobil 1. That's the most recommended oil for this car, and it's something you have to go with. Alright, so the dipstick. Important thing to know, you always check your oil on a cold engine. Alright, so we're going to take the dipstick out and see what the old oil looks like to begin with. Alright, let me put it right here so we could see. It's not that dirty, it is full. I'm going to hold my finger right here where the full line is, so it is at least at that point. We're going to wipe it off. If you want, you could do it again, but it really doesn't matter. This is a cold engine. And we'll look at the oil right here. So it's pretty, I wouldn't say it's fully dirty, but it is in need of a replacement. On this current oil, I've driven around 4,000 to 5,000 miles. In this vehicle, Smart recommends a minimum service interval of 10,000 miles. But obviously, you know, the more heat up and cool down cycles you do, and depending on what kind of driving, you should change your oil more frequently. So that's it. We just checked the oil. We know that is not consuming any. That's always something great in a car. And let's move on to the next step in the process. So these are all the items I'm going to be using for this oil change. This is the original OEM specified oil. It's available from Walmart. I actually purchased it at Walmart. If you check out the Smart Fortwo website, it will say 0W40 Mobil 1 synthetic. This particular one is the one you should be using, the European car formula, which says approved for most Mercedes-Benz, VW, Audi, and Porsche. In terms of the oil filter, this is the best oil filter you could possibly get for these cars. It's a Fram Ultra Synthetic XG6607. Also picked it up at Walmart. I think I paid a little under $9 for it. The box itself says proven protection up to 15,000 miles. Now, clearly, I'm not going to do 15,000 miles on this. You know, I'm going to replace it at the same time as I replace the oil, which for me is usually a 5,000 mile interval or so. But this is what it is. This is called an extractor pump. Now, this is the cheapest one I could find. You know, basically, it's a pump that will literally suck the oil out of the dipstick hole in your engine. The reason we're going to use this is also sometimes called a topside oil extractor. You can get a larger capacity one. This particular one is a smaller capacity. Now the reason we're going to use this is because I really don't want to unscrew the actual drain plug at the bottom. It's a relatively large diameter fitting, and I don't even have the correct socket for that. This is the easiest process, and also another added benefit is since this basically goes, and I'm going to show you guys in a little bit, this basically goes to the lowest point of the engine oil pan, which is where the actual dipstick gets its reading from. So let's say you normally drain your oil, there's still always at least a 20% remainder of oil in the bottom of the drain pan. That's basically what happens. This will suck out almost all the oil. And I know that for a fact because I've already done this. The actual spec in the Smart Fortwo takes about 3.8 quarts of oil. and I've basically taken out almost 3.8, I would say. So engine was basically dry at that point, and we just refilled it. So before you're ready to actually use the oil extractor pump, what you guys need to do is warm up the engine a little bit. I recommend running it for maybe 4 minutes to make sure the oil is not cold. The reason is it's gonna make it a little more liquid, and it'll be easier for the pump to suck it through these little hoses here. As you could tell, this old oil, well, it's basically been outside. It is pretty viscous. You could see it moving around. But, you know, this is not the best quality pump. It's one of the cheapest ones I could find. So, you know, you're going to need every little help you can get. Also, another thing is you want to remove the oil, the actual oil cap. That was going to release some of the pressure that's keeping the oil in the motor. So you want to have the, obviously you're going to stick this into the actual dipstick, and you're going to remove the oil cap. And we're going to do this in a little bit, so we'll see how it actually looks like. Alright, so I warmed up the engine right now. Basically going to do the process. First unscrew the oil cap. Alright. So let's take the oil cap out. Looks good. We're going to take out the oil dipstick. And make sure you put it somewhere and have it on a towel, somewhere where it's not going to get any residue on it from rocks and such. We're going to take this long tube, basically going to stick it straight down where the dipstick came from until it hits the bottom of the oil pan. And you'll basically be able to tell, and clearly it should be the same amount of length tube as the dipstick itself is. Alright, so I could feel its contact at the bottom of the pan, and we're going to leave it there for now. Alright, what we're going to do, we're going to pump this up, take some of the oil out. When the canister is nearly full, I'm going to remove this little stopper, and I'm just going to put it into my old container. It's my old protein container, and then we're going to dispose of it at a local station. Alright, so let's see the actual process of how this works. So you can see as I pump it, the oil is starting to go up a little bit. It basically works by creating pressure and then sucking the oil out. So it's a long process. You could see it's coming along. It's slow. Oil is not that warm. Should have maybe warmed it up more, but it's fine. It's going to take a while. But this is the process, and it's basically identical on any car. This is the easiest, fastest way to do this. This might not be the best oil extractor. To be honest with you, it's going to take a while. But they do make much better units that are more money. You can get yourself a nice one for around 60 bucks. In case you guys are looking. That's the easiest way to do this. So it's a slow process. You know, I filled up maybe a little bit. Basically, I'm going to need about 3.5 to 4 of these. So it's going to take me a while. So there it goes. Not the fastest process, but if you keep the pressure, it will eventually work. Keep in mind, this is the worst oil extractor I was able to find. This particular model is actually used to service mopeds and small motorcycles and maybe lawnmowers. So this is going to take a while. I already did a little bit, so let's just see how the oil looks so we can see the levels right here. I'm going to release some of the pressure right now, and we're going to dump the oil into my bin right here, which later on I will recycle, of course. Alright, so basically we're going to disconnect this right here. Let me put this a little bit here. So we're going to take this off. It's basically a giant rubber stopper, kind of like you have on a wine bottle. There's nothing coming out of the bottom. I'm going to place this here. And we almost have the whole jug, almost up to 3/4. I'm going to dump it out and see what it looks like. So it is not the cleanest oil, but by far not the worst I've ever seen. Alright, so that's that. We're going to put it back in now and keep going until we're done. So, alright, so now I've dumped out about 3 of these bottles completely. You could see that there's bubbles forming in the system. So that's basically a good sign that you're almost reached the end of this whole process. You could see the bubbles are speeding up also, and then they slow down. What you can do is also move the actual line a little bit, because there are kind of uneven spots on the oil pan. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish this up, and then we're going to remove the oil filter on the bottom of the car. Then we're going to refill the oil back into the engine. Alright, so we've come to the part of the process where we're going to remove the engine oil filter. I'm basically just going to get under the car here on the cement. I'm going to try to use my hands to remove it. You can get an oil filter removal tool, but I've done it before with my hands, and it wasn't a problem. Alright guys, so I had to use a pipe wrench. It was a little tighter than I thought. Maybe because it's cold out right now, but I already got it out a little bit, so I see I have oil on my hands. Alright, so a little bit leaked out. I would say very little, maybe around an eighth of a cup. Alright, so we got the old oil filter out. You could see there's still some oil in it. Basically just going to put it to the side. It looks to be in good shape. This is the same one I'm going to be using right now to replace, it's the Fram XG6607 Ultra Synthetic Filter. So did a good job. I don't see anything wrong with it. I might try to make a video later on. We're going to cut it open, see what the elements look like. But for now, we're just going to put in the old filter, the new filter rather. All right, so we removed the old oil filter. We got the new one here. I'm basically going to show you how I prep the filter before we put it on. I'm going to put some oil around the gasket, and we're going to also fill it to about halfway. So this is the Mobil 0W40. It's the approved oil for this engine. Alright. So the reason we're going to put some oil into the filter to begin with is because it's the lowest point of your actual oil system. We don't want it to be empty when the oil pump in the motor is going to start to cycle. So put it in about halfway. Alright. Also, the best practice method is to take a finger, put it in the oil you're using, and to lubricate the gasket on the outside. The actual reason people do this is since it goes back onto the engine, you're going to screw it on. It's going to provide a little bit of a better seal, and the way the rubber is going to mesh against the metal parts is going to be better than if you were not using any oil around the seam itself. So that's always a good idea. Let's see, it's leveled out. I'm going to put in a little bit more oil. Alright. I'm basically just going to stick it back into the car, and we're going to refill the engine oil. So now that we put the oil filter back on the engine, we're just going to add the original oil. So the way I normally do this is I take any funnel you might have, a funnel like this. I'm going to put it into the actual, right there, to the dipstick out all the time while I do this. Now what I do is, obviously when you have a full 5-quart gallon, well rather a gallon here of oil, it's very hard to get it in. It's going to spill over. So I generally just take any cup that I'm about to throw out, styrofoam cup, whatever it is. I'm going to put some in, and we're just going to add it this way a couple times until the actual gallon itself levels out. Maybe about 6-7 times. So I still have a lot in a gallon. Let me see. I'm sorry guys, I didn't mean a gallon, I meant five quarts as I said before. So we're gonna keep going. This I found to be the fastest, most convenient, I guess, cleanest way also to do this. Where we are, we're still a good amount. I expect maybe 1 or 2 more cups, at which point I'm going to check the oil itself with a dipstick and then top it up as needed. Alright, so now that I have the oil in there, basically I'm just going to check the oil level. I'm going to put the oil stick in and take it out. So we could see that it is more than halfway full. Right here's the full line, and this is where it is. So we have about 25% more to go. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to wipe it clean, put it back in. We're going to add a couple more cups of oil. I'm going to put in about half a cup more. And now we're going to verify again with a dipstick. So it looks to be at the full line right now. I'm going to clean it off and do it one more time. Alright, so it's basically full. We're done. And that's it. Basically, that's how you would do, in my opinion, the cheapest oil change possible. For this particular car, the Smart dealership wants over $150 for it plus tax. Depending where you go, you could probably be a little bit under $200 for that. In terms of total cost, the oil cost me $26 at Walmart, and the Fram oil filter cost me $8. Labor is nothing. Obviously, if you had a good oil extractor, you could do this in a couple of minutes. You don't need any specialty tools, and that's basically the oil change process on this 2011 Smart Fortwo. You could basically apply this to any vehicle that you might have. Thanks so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe.